in the kitchen. I've been looking, I couldn't find any. Oh, okay. Yeah, so they're in the oven right now. The other two pans are in the oven. Yeah, we'll bring them back. La ilaha illallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Ahmaduhu wa asta'inuhu wa astadihi wa astaghfiruhu wa umminu bihi jalla wa ala wa la akfuruhu wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu arsalahu bil huda wa din al-haq liyadhhiruhu ala ad-din kullihi walau karihal mushrikun. All praise belongs to Allah. We praise Him, we seek His help, His assistance, and His guidance. We believe in Him and do not disbelieve in Him. I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His servant and messenger. Allah sent Him, that is Muhammad, with Deen al-Haq, the religion, the way, the methodology of truth. And this way of life known as Islam will rise to its proper position in this world, whether the mushriks like it or not. Amma ba'd, فَإِنَّ أَصْدَقَ الْحَدِيثِ كِتَابُ اللَّهِ وَأَوْطَاقَ الْأُولَى كَلِمَةُ تَقْوَى وَخَيْرُ الْمِلَالِ مِلَّةُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ وَخَيْرُ السُّنَنِ سُنَّةُ مُحَمَّدٍ صلى الله عليه وسلم وأشرف الحديث ذكر الله وأحسن القصص هذا القرآن وخير الأمور أوزموها وشر الأمور محدثاتها وأحسن الحج حج الأنبياء وأشرف الموت قتل الشهداء وأما الأمة دلالة بعد الهدى وخير الأعمال ما نفاء وخير الهادي ما أتباع وشر الأمة أما الكلب. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said the most truthful of discourses is Kitabullah. The most trustworthy word is taqwa, or fear of Allah. The best of the communities is the community of Prophet Ibrahim. The best way of life is the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The remembrance of Allah is the most glorious of all things. The best of all narrations is Quran. The best acts are those requiring the highest degree of will and determination. The worst acts are those based on innovation. The best way of life is the one adopted by the prophets of Allah. The most glorious death is the death of the martyr. The most wretched blindness consists of going astray after finding the right way. The best acts are the ones that yield benefits. The best guidance is that which people may be able to follow. The worst blindness is the blindness of the heart. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna Allaha yahmaru bil adli wal ihsani wa ita'i dhul qurba wa yanha anil fashai wal munkari wal bagi ya'idhukum la'allakum tadhakkarun. Allah commands justice, the doing of good, and liberality to kith and kin. He forbids all shameful deeds and injustice and rebellion. He instructs you that you may receive admonition. فَمَنْ يُرِيدِ اللَّهُ أَنْ يَهْدِيَهُ يَشْرَحْ صَدْرَهُ لِلْإِسْلَامِ. Those whom Allah in His plan willeth to guide, He opens their breasts to Islam. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ حَقَّ تُقَاتِهِ وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. O you believe, fear Allah as He should be feared, and die not except in a state of Islam. وَأَتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. And hold fast altogether by the rope which Allah stretches out for you, and be not divided amongst yourselves. Kuntum khaira umatin ukrijat lil nasi tamaruna bil marufi wa tanhauna anil munkar wa tu'minuna billah. You are the best community ever evolved or raised up for mankind, because you enjoin the right, you forbid the wrong, and you believe in Allah. Aqulu qawli hadha wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala khairul mursaleen. Muhammadin al-Nabi al-Ummi. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ijma'in. Amma ba'd, yaqulu Allahu ta'ala fil Quran al-Kareem. Inna Allaha wa malaikatuhu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu tasliman. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Maulana Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Dear believers, yesterday we had a nice little program. It was basically dealing with climate change, although it was just a nice little program. And in that, if anyone travels on the road in search of knowledge, Allah will cause him to travel on the roads of paradise. The angels will lower their wings in their great pleasure with one who seeks knowledge. The inhabitants of the heavens and the earth, even the fish in the deep waters, will ask forgiveness for the learned man. That's Abu Dawood. Verily, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his angels, and the dwellers of the heavens and the earth, and even the ant in the hole, and the fish send blessings upon a preacher of good to the people. It's Tirmidhi. So exalted is the righteous, learned person that he will even cause the fish to rejoice. In applying these hadith to the context of modern times, we believe that this is because such a person would enjoin goodness toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his creation, and pursue a clean water policy. In today's world, we hear much about the pollution of the air, the land, and the water. Most environmentalists believe that the solution lies in using man's technology to clean up lakes, streams, rivers, toxic landfills, and other sources of pollution. However, we believe a bit differently. In order to be most effective in cleaning up our environment, we must first go to the root of the problem. To the root of the problem, of course, our understanding in Islam is tasqiyah bil nafs, the purification of the nafs. This is the solution, because if you clean up the nafs of the human being, right, help establish justice and balance inside of the individuals around the world, then the human being that exists will go out and produce that in the external environment. In other words, it starts in the internal environment. Now, this goes back to when the Quran is talking about or giving instructions to the angels, because the angels have a question. Oh Allah, you're going to create a mufsid, one that can create destruction, shed blood, and trouble in the world. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I know what you know. I understand that this guy that I'm fixing to fix up can cause hardcore global problems. I'm giving him that power and that authority. That's in him, and I'm giving it to him. But in the process, I'm giving him, his twin, a higher authority that at the time when it's most needed to clean up this global environment, that we're going to instruct this person that I am giving this power, this authority to, right? I'm going to give him authority, right? I'm going to give him the power. I'm going to give him the responsibility, right, to, from one of the articles we had called Ilm and Amal, right? This learned man, I'm going to give him the power, the authority, and the ability to adjust himself and to navigate all the minefields that exist in the world today. I'm going to give him that ability to show you the way through all of these minefields and traps, right? And snares that may grab you and mislead you. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. And in this case, with this Khalifa, Allah is linking this, or the Prophet is linking this to a learned man. We all know the hadith, one learned man is more valuable than 1,000. Some hadith translated ignorant worshipers, but it don't mean ignorant worshipers. It means people that worship well and they just go along doing the takbirs and what have you. But they don't interact with the society, right, to improve it, to change it, to direct it, to give it some hidayah. So in this case, before I go on, I want to just read one ayat and about this whole place we're involved in here. Do not the unbelievers see that the heavens and the earth were joined together as one unit of creation? Before we clove them asunder, we made from water every living thing. Will they not then believe? So from the beginning, we're going to go back to the beginning, like at first that Allah is giving this authority to man. We're going to go back a little bit before that. This ayat gives the reality of the world in which we live. We know about black holes and what have you, and how they concentrate other planets, and when planets die, they're drawn in to this concentrated power. And then it gets so dense, this is what they say, that all of a sudden it explodes. And this is where the Big Bang Theory come in, the expanding universe. This big explosion takes place, and out of that come all the world in which we can visualize, we can see that we live on. And this is in the Quran. Didn't the people see that the whole earth was one solid mass? Right? Of course, that mass is created by Allah. I don't think that the mass created itself. But science verifies, we don't need the science, but this proves, this one simple, forceful, direct ayat tells the world where it all came from. It was concentrated in one solid mass. Then we clove it asunder. In modern terminology, we blew it all up. And then it expanded, right? And then we created every living thing from water. Right? We can see that. All right. Now here we are. We exist in this. And remember, as ayats has said, that we created insan in the best mold, the best taqweem, the best shape, the best form. And he can rise to the highest of the high, or he can go to the lowest of the low. We live in that environment right now where the best qualities of the human being is being brought out. You see, man, human being got some wonderful qualities. But you also find that the leaders of the world today are the ones that are bringing the worst out of the human being. It seems like the one that reign in power are the ones that have the worst characteristics, right? The highest level of misguidance, foolishness, and ignorance seem to be in charge. But now we want to go to, well, of course, we know Sabbih isma rabbikal a'la, alladhi khalaqa fasawwa, alladhi qadara fahada. That glory be to Allah, or praise be to Allah, or alhamdulillah, that we praise Allah, and that Allah have created man and put him in a position and straightened everything out for him, that he have duly shaped, made equal, talking about the earth made good. And remember, the balance of the universe, al-mizan. Allah sent or made or created this world with what? Balance. We're going to get to our job here in a minute. Who creates and perfects, puts all the capabilities in the human being. And now we want to go and skip a lot of things to go to the mission. Allah has promised to those among you who believe and work righteous deeds that he will of a surety grant authority to him in the land, inheritance of power, as he granted to those before them, that he will establish in authority their religion, the one which he hath chosen for them, and that he will change their state after the fear in which they have lived to one of security and peace. They will worship me alone and not associate me. If any do reject faith after this, they are rebellious and wicked. Then it goes on to say, so establish regular prayer, give regular charity, obey the messenger that you may receive mercy. Never think that the unbelievers are going to frustrate Allah's plan on earth. Their abode is the fire, and it is indeed an evil refuge. In this word it used la yastaklafihannahum and istiklafa. One is power and authority, and one is ability. So now we're talking about Caliph. This man that Allah from the very beginning gave the power to cause mischief and shed blood and become a general F-up in the world and totally destructive whenever he can get at it, right? That in this case now Allah is going to give this Caliph power, ability, and authority. The power and ability to, one, reestablish justice, reestablish balance, reestablish equality. Allah has given him that power, giving him that authority, and he's getting that responsibility. So with that power, with that authority, and with that ability, this human being has the power and ability to research, to study what is the problems that exist in the earth. Where are we at now, right? Now this is the Caliph. They're using this word too, but the Christians are using stewardship, right? Stewardship over domination, because in the Bible, remember, God gave man the power and authority over the fowl of the air, the fish of the sea, and everything that creep and crawl on the planet, right? So he gave him domination. And when you look at the world, this word domination have gone totally wild because it was always in the European mind or the Western mind to dominate the earth, not cooperate with the earth. If you notice, all original people have certain rituals. They thank the earth for, we thank you for giving us when we slaughter an animal, we thank Allah for giving us the power and authority to consume this animal for our benefit. We thanking Allah. So therefore, we don't misuse the animal, right? We don't feel like that Allah gave us power to dominate this animal in order just to consume, but then we thank Allah for that ability. And all people, we call them original people in the old days, all people, let's call them of color and historical context, always thanked God, thanked the Creator, right? They had some ritual. The Indians in this country, that Indian corn you see, when they planted corn, right, they also planted a fish along with that corn to give thanks. We're going to take something out, we want to put something back in, right? It's just natural. If you take something out, everybody understood that if you take something out, this corn, right, then you have to put something back in. It just so happens that that thing that they put in was the perfect fertilizer for that plant. Think about it, right? When it decomposes right there with the seed, and out of that comes super corn because the people had the understanding that when you take something out, right, you thank Allah by putting something back in. Because when he made this earth for you, he put in it everything that you need. Can you imagine you live in an environment that everything you need is there? Could it be an accident? Oh, it was just Darwinism stumbled upon something and it evolved through a zillion years. If you want to believe that, that's fine. Origin of the species, okay. Well, if you believe in origin of the species, everything evolved, then all animals could remix back together. We could mate with a monkey and produce us, like, well, I'm not saying we're monkeys and nothing like that. But the chimpanzee, the gorilla, is 96.8, what did the lady say? 96.8% the same DNA and the same makeup as a human being. So if dogs and wolves can mate together, and they ain't no more than that, why can't we mate? If origin of the species is correct, why can't we mate with a gorilla and have a Negro or something like that? We can't do it. You can't cross species lines like that. Allah created everything within their sphere of activity, right? And Allah has created this human being. This caliph, he's going to research all the realities in which we live in. What went wrong? When did it go wrong? How did it go wrong? And he can use all the science, all the engineering, all the technology, right? And organize it in a way that we can develop this new world that we want to live in, that we need to live in, that we must live in. And he could adjust all the things that are necessary that's in accord with Allah's guidelines. He can adjust all the things, right, that are needed to reestablish the balance, the wazan, the mizan, right? To reestablish the justice, the equality. Because what do everybody say? It's not about just climate change. It's population explosion. It's all of these things, right? For thousands of years, the disease, sickness, and what have you kept the human being at a certain level, a certain number. During Roman times, the average age was either 18 years old or 30 years old, something like that, the balanced age. Now, you know, if many babies die, that drops the age limit down, way down. But the age limit now, let's say America, say 75 or something like that. You know, just around that. I'm balancing men and women. That's a big jump from just 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. When they establish all these plans here, Social Security, that when you get 65, you can get on Social Security, right? Well, when during Franklin Roosevelt's time, people lived to be 66, right? That's why they had all them rocking chairs on the porches. All that hard work broke everybody's back at 47 years old. So they sitting there studying, they said that human being lived to be maximum on a balance 66 years. So we're going to give him Social Security. And he's going to draw that Social Security for 1 year, and then he's going to die. Right? That's the way they hooked up the plan in. That's why now they want to add another 10 years at least on it, right? Because they got all these people 65. Go on TV, look at the record. People are dying at 75 and they considered young. People die at my age, that's young. People are dying at 90, 95. How many people, when you read the newspaper, right, and the obituaries, 88, 89, 90, 95 years old. It's kind of all right. 95 years old, it was only a few people. And now they've passed centenarianism years ago that many people are living 100 and over, right? And they got the Social Security, so what they made, you got to look at their mistakes. I'm saying that the lifespan has expanded. That means the population have exploded. The Khalifa can come and he can say, he can do all his research, and he said in order to get to this glorious destiny that we've decided on, then we're going to try to moderate the population. And this is not going against God's rule, because Allah gave him the power, the authority, and ability to adjust society to go back to and to reestablish justice, balance, equilibrium, right? That's what Allah gave him the authority to do. This man is the same species that started all the problem in the first place. This is the brother or brother-in-law of the same monster, right? That caused all the disunity, disorganization, and imbalance in the creation. And now Allah is establishing in authority this man. This man is the same relative of the troublemaker, right? This man, but he's invested with authority, with ability, and we go so far as saying is the responsibility. You read all through the Quran, you're going to find he has the responsibility to redo this whole thing, to reestablish the balance, the justice. Why? Because he is Allah's regent, vicegerent. And Allah already hooked it up in balance and unity, harmony, everything working together, right? His job is to reestablish Allah's balance, Allah's justice, right? Because Allah gave him that authority. You can read it. Allah gave him authority and power and ability to do those things. Now it's just a question of time. And when will this personality step forward? So, number one, establish justice, balance on earth. Number two, the responsibility to lead and guide, to establish priorities. You know, what do we do first? What do we do second? What do we do third, right? Priorities, put things in order. Remember, this is the vision of the world we want to live in, the world that Allah created in the first place, a perfect working organism, a living organism that is balanced. The fresh water rains down and sends everything on down to the ocean. An ocean heavy with salt will clean up everything, right? And then that water will be taken up from the ocean and everywhere else, taken back up to the sky again, right? Remember, this is a liquid. Then it's going to turn into a mist or a gas, right? It's going to be distilled up there. No matter how dirty, no matter how impure it was down here, that Allah is going to change that environmental circumstance. That water is going to change to a mist or a gaseous substance. It's going to go up to the clouds. As it's going up and around, it's going to be distilled. Then it's going to come down fresh and pure, right? As fresh, clean water. Okay, today, or for the last 30 years, we've had what we call 30 or 40 years, acid rain. Acid rain means the water comes down pure, clean through the clouds and everything. And by the time it leaves those clouds and mixes with the environment, those drops of rain picks up the air and the pollution in the air. And it rains down what they used to call acid rain. Acid rain could destroy even gravestones. It was so powerful, right? Yeah, because coming down through that pollution, it would suck up and absorb. So all of the imbalances that are in the earth, this man has the authority. Allah is going to give him the wisdom. You know, you guys don't believe this? Well, teach me the names of these things if you so bad. If you know everything, right? We don't know nothing about them. And then Adam, what's those things? That's water, that's air, that's this, that's that, right? So Allah gave him the power, him the ability. Well, let's be frank, you and I, the power, the authority, and the ability to do all these things to make things right. He can upgrade the language. The language that we use now is not necessarily religious language. Okay? So this caliph, this Allah's man on earth now, he can study everything and he can help re-languagize everything. So it fits everything now is in sociology, psychology, and all of that. Every now and then they'll say there's flood of what? Biblical proportions. That means, man, these is floods. This is serious. When they talk about hurricanes now, they say these floods are of biblical proportions. Okay? When you look at the world, the forest fires and all of this, whether it's Australia, whether it's California, those fires are unnatural. They're above and beyond fires that we're accustomed to, right? And therefore, these fires are more destructive. When you used to have forest fires, they would go and they would burn a little here, burn a little there. Now, they burn the whole town down. Paradise last year was just burned down. The year before that, it was Santa Rosa in California. We know about the car fire up near Redding. This fire was so destructive, it had hurricanes within a fire. That's fresh air. You know what fire does when more oxygen get to it? What? The hotter it get. So this is regular fire, which is hot enough, right? Combined with tornadoes and hurricanes within the fire, giving it fresh oxygen and just burning it down. The governor of California was almost crying. He said, boy, this is bad. And he was saying the people that deny climate change, he was ready to cry because he's the governor of California. And he's saying, what is happening to my state? What do people think's going on? What's wrong with them? Right? He needs Allah's man. He needs a Khalifa to come. Are these people at the White House getting ready to come in now? Are they talking about the problem? Just a little bit. But what they're talking about is solving 5% of the problem. 5% maximum, not 100%. Allah's man is going to have the power, the authority to adjust economy, cooperation in science, engineering, technology, sociology, psychology, all of those things now. It's an upgrade in language. They're not using religious language, or they would be talking about these catastrophic events like they talk about them in the Bible and in the Quran. But they're not talking about them like that, right? No, they almost don't mention that we have these, when they talk about the plagues of Justinian, that was back hundreds of years ago in the 1300s. The Black Plague, they talk about them as historical, biblical, right, plagues. Really, this was bad. But probably now 330,000 people dead in America. That's what they say. We have no idea what the real numbers are. But one thing about it that they're not lying about, most of it is, guess who? You and me. American Indians, right? Latinos. Why? What's wrong with us? Why every plague come through got to knock me and you over, right? Oh, well, it's just that y'all don't have good health care. Well, y'all knew that for the last 100 years. You knew we ain't had no health. What are you talking about? And justice, freedom, brotherhood, humanity. I guess in Columbus they shot 2 more guys. It's not like when we was young, you could physically fight the police. Sometime you take his gun, stuff like that. You can't do that for the last. When the Negro jumped up and said, I want my freedom, that was the end of all that man-to-man combat with police or sheriffs. You couldn't do that no more. I mean, in the old days, they didn't shoot you as fast because they needed you to work still, right? You still had a pinch of value, but not a whole lot. So the police didn't shoot you as much then as they do now. And they shoot you on TV, and it's all right. It's just Negroes. We don't need them anymore. We don't need Latinos. We don't need all of these floods of people coming here. When all of them came here on a flooded boat, Ellis Island, right? Where do you think all of them came from? They wasn't here. So I'm saying God's man is here to change that. The same species, the same family that caused the problem, the other part of the family Allah have gifted with the ability, as Allah says, I created this man in the best shape, the best form, with more ability than anything else in creation. He can rise to the highest of the high, higher than angels, because he's doing this voluntarily. The angels do what they was created to do. So he can rise higher than angels or lower than a dog, right? He can lower than a snake, more than the surreptitious animals of the deep and the dark. He can beat them out, right? Except those who believe. And let's say reestablish balance and justice. That's us. That's when, well, you say, well, what do you mean that's us? Well, everything that hits you that's bad, somebody else sent it to hit you, right? So if you want a good future, who's going to do it? Boss man? He's going to fix you a good future. I can see it now. Boss man sitting down, all my niggas, I'm going to plan good future for them. Oh, yes, we've been shooting them and killing them and murdering them all the time, right? Been whipping them since slavery and shooting them in Jim Crow, and now we just outright murder. We've infiltrated all of their groups so they don't have a chance, right, to reestablish nothing. And if they do, we're going to surround that Negro. If he got one himself, we're going to surround him with 10, 20, 50, 100, whatever it takes. 200 other Negroes. Not white folks, just niggas like him. Right? The Khalifa. All of these things, the Caliph have to overcome. Won't overcome them by himself. He have to have, let's call this a collective caliphate here. This is administered caliphate where, remember, a caliphate, it don't have the exact structure like the Constitution. The Caliph have all kind of abilities. He can use election. He can say, I want y'all to elect your leaders. He can use selection, where he select the governors of each territory. He can do that, right? All of those things, that man has the ability. It's time, place, and circumstance. What are the priorities in this period of time in which we're living in? That's what he does. That's what he has. Because there are so many snares, so many traps, so many minefields in life, right, today. There has to be some human being, right, that can direct the people through this minefield of life and show the people, don't step there, do step there. It goes back to Hidayah. Hidayah, we say, Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim. Lead us and guide us onto the straight way, the way that navigates us through this minefield of pollution, murder, rape, and pillage, right? Get me through this. This is what Hidayah is. It is that type of guidance. And we say, Rabbil Alameen. Rab is considered a nourisher to perfection, like nourishes a thing, just like a mother nourishes a child. It grows, it develops. Pretty soon it can walk around and crawl, and pretty soon it gets big, and that Allah nourishes all of its creation. Now there's an external nourishing, and then there's an internal nourishing. There's a nourishing that comes from our mother that prepares us to interact with the environment. Pretty soon we can feed ourselves, right? But in the beginning, we need that nourishment that takes us along, step by step, stage by stage, right? In the animal world is doing the same thing. The mother is chewing the food for the little animal so that it's soft enough for it to digest, right? This is the rahmah. This is the rahmah. This is the assignment that all human beings have. The human being, the animal world is assigned to something, right? This is the qadr, this is the taqdir. That assignment is the fish will swim in the water, right? The birds will fly in the sky. That's their assignment, right? That's their ability to do that, to live in that environment and to prosper and reproduce in that environment. That's Allah's creation. So now all of that is in balance. Fish die off. You've seen them on TV, right? Fish dying off. Animals, other animals starving to death. Total imbalance. Species disappearing in the world in which we live in. Extinction of one, I forget the number. Every day or every week is so many extinctions of plants, of animals, right? And then in the human being, language, environmental, historical extinction, where there were tribes and languages that do not exist and have not existed for so long period of time, right? God's man is going to come back and tighten all that up. Why? Because that man is going to set priorities. This is the number one priority for now. This is the number two priority. This is number three. These are the 5 priorities that we're going to attack right now. All right? These are very serious for the period of time in which we're living in. So we're going to get with that person. He's going to change and modernize the language. So birth control don't mean, oh, you just want to have sex, right? And so we don't want to have a baby, so here's a pill to do away with that. That the modern language will be historical, but it'll be combined with religion. So no, based on our environmental realities, the earth can easily support 2 billion people, let's say. Now there are, 7 or 8 billion people. So this is not old time, we want to enjoy sex, but we don't want to have any children, right? No, this is to rebalance the earth. You see what I'm saying? This is not changing Allah's rules, but Allah is giving him authority to re-languagize the things that he does, because he's Allah's man. He's not just some guy running around. He's the Khalifa. He's the steward. He is the manager of this world in which we live. The other thing, that this system, this glorious system, will be one where all the good characteristics will be brought out of the human being instead of all the bad characteristics. Capitalism, the stuff we have now, it brings all the evil and the bad. Even in the movies, they talk about he's on the dark side, right? The light side. I guess the good guys in Star Wars or something, Mother is the good side. And the new language, the force be with you. When that came out in the 70s, late 70s, they said God was dead, so they couldn't say God be with you, right? They said the force be with you. What you talking about, the force? Is this man crazy? Right? But they had said in the New York Times, God is dead. It was either the 60s or something like that. So they couldn't say God be with you, because people wasn't always running around talking about God in the mid and late 60s, right? But the power of the force be with you. And they're still using that language because they're too scared to say God be with you, right? God willing, we'll do this. Even Christians used to say all that. Inshallah, everybody had their own version of that. That's why the language, the new language, will be supported by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it will be leading the people back to mizan, balance, equilibrium. That means they'll be leading the people back to Allah, and all the good characteristics in the human being will be needed in order to do that. All of them will be needed to get there, right? Because a government's job is to make life good for people, to facilitate, to make it life easy or better. Isn't that right? The government's job is not to bring the worst out of you, that if you get a case, you can tell on Johnny Boy and send him to the penitentiary for 50 years or the rest of his life, and you can walk around and create a couple of more murders here, sell a little dope. Why? Because you told on Johnny Boy. You brought the worst out of the human being, right? The lowest element. What about the best? If there's that bad in you, there's that good in you. The Khalifa is going to work to bring the good out of the people with your cooperation. Use all the tools at his disposal. As we said, psychological tools, sociological tools, economical tools, all of those tools, because if you want to make a new world, some people are going to lose. We can't fracturate all the oil and, pump hot water and salt water down in there. Well, what we going to do for work, right? Well, you have to use, we call it a grub stake for the future. Did anybody know what a grub stake was? When a miner used to go out and do mining, in the old days, they would go to a big store owner and say, I need a grub stake. A grub stake was a mule and tools to mine, And when he hit pay dirt, they used to call it, he used to share it with the one that gave him the grub stake. All the wealth that we have created in the world today is a grub stake for the future. It's an investment for the future, right? Then that means all the wealth, it's simple. It's enough wealth here, right? So if one group of people don't have anything, we got a tax system. We used to have a 96, 94, or 91% tax base for the rich. That's how we got a big middle class. Now they tax me and you, and the rich people don't pay no taxes. They got a way around it. You see, they did that themselves. Just like they established the middle class. The middle class, balance. Middle class, no problem. Everybody got enough to get by. When I was a kid, the father could go to work. They could buy a house, a new Chevrolet, and a television. Right? Just a man working. It's all, we don't like that. We need more money. So now, instead of having a nice Chevy station wagon or something, hey, we can build all these houses. We don't need families anymore. So as soon as you can, the family can get out of the house and go rent another apartment, right? And buy a whole new car, and it increases production. The more production we have, the more pollution we have, because we have more and more. Do you see the habits and the customs that they had before produced everything that we have now, right? So now here we come. Allah is going to give us, or is giving us, the responsibility to use all the tools at our disposal, to assign roles and responsibility. Rights of determination, that's the right to determine what we should use based on our priorities, based on what? Quran, Hadith, traveling in the earth, right? And in our experience. You don't have to respect our experience if you don't want. But I believe the American Negro, as he was once called, has a treasure trove of experience that's valuable to all humanity. We should want to play a part in adjusting the future of humanity. And if we don't do it, nobody's going to do it for us. The world is not like that today. Everybody's thinking about themselves. So if you want to see this new world, you have to play a part in it. You have to play a part in it. And I will move toward a close. That calls for evolution and change. I was just listening to the radio this morning, and they said, well, looks like, of course, this is Christmas Day. I don't want to digress. Well, anyway. So this is Christmas Day, and they're saying, well, look like we're going to have another big surge in numbers of deaths, because all they stuff showed that enough people didn't stay at home and stay in the house and stay away from their family. Their record showed that there was still people flying in and out on the highway. They couldn't sneak through the airport. They jumped on the highway. Mom and daddy don't live but 500 miles away shooting. These modern cars, 500 miles. Just like that, right? It ain't nowhere. So they expect, what I'm getting to is this point. The human being, without tazkiyah bil nafs, with hundreds of thousands of people dead, do not have even the ability to say, hey man, I'm going to follow leadership. Well, not that leadership, but good leadership that says, hey, we're going to wear our mask, right? A little simple stuff. You can't make me wear no mask. You infringing on my freedom, on my rights, because I'm an American. You can't tell me what to do, talking to the government, right? That's bringing the worst out of people. What about me or you? I don't want to get no coronavirus. Plus, you might survive. But me and my crew is 3-1. We ain't gonna, right? 3-1. So he's still a little light majority. He said, I ain't gonna be following that. Ain't nobody dying but niggas and Mexicans, no way. And all them people of color, American Indians, we thought we got rid of them a long time ago. Here they are making a comeback, right? Making a comeback, and we can get rid of them with a little virus. Maybe we ain't gonna lose nobody but grandmama, and we didn't want to take care of no. They kind of mean, when they get, I don't want to take care of that old lady, sitting up there messing on herself, doing this. I got to have somebody go. I can't go to the beach. I got to go take care of her, right? And I wanted to party. And I got to go take care of grandma or great-grandma. Maybe the virus might get her. So it don't get nobody but old folks and niggas. Hey, that's not a bad deal for them, right? So they say, they might even be couching that under, don't wear your mask, because if there's 1 million people here, all of us mixed together, well, how many of us gonna go and how many of them gonna go? And they reproduce so fast. So many niggas, so many Africans. Have you ever seen the amount of Mexicans and others trying to come here? We got to get rid of them people some kind of way. Now, there's conspiracy theories that say that that's what they're doing. We're not going by that. We're just going by what we see right in our hand, right in our face right now. So if you want to adjust that, you don't want to be the target anymore, you have to eliminate the target. We're not having those targets anymore, right? And if it's done, you're going to have to do it. That's your job. You want to be at the table, you're going to have to build your own place there. The tools. When you finish with tools, what do? You put them in the cabinet somewhere, put them out in the truck, something like that, right? You don't bring the tools that you built your system on in your society to the dinner table, right? Or you don't bring those tools to the management table, the organizational table, when we dividing everything up. You don't bring the tools. You and I have been the tools. We build a society. We do all that. We're not brought to the table. You got to come to the table yourself, and you got to have your own agenda. That's God's man. He's going to refix that, right? Allah giving us a chance. Lowest of the low, highest of the high, right? One ayat says something like, we gave the people that was considered as nothing power and authority in the land, right? They was considered nothing. Talking about the Israelis of that time. Okay. Proper system, evolution. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for being alive at this period of time. There's times when very few things happen, and there's time when it almost seems like everything happens at one time. 2020 has been a monster, right? 2020 is a year, and we've been talking about 2020 for the last 10 years at least. 2020 vision. We have to have a vision for 2020. But we were saying 2020 vision, but 2020 was the year to give us the vision, to lay out everything, right? So it's all clear. Put all the pieces on the table. So we now know what to do. Isn't that right? You can't say, even a guy in the street can't say, I don't know what to do. I don't know nothing. He's getting bombarded with it, right? Everybody now knows. So we starting our planning for our future. We're investing ourselves with our authority given to us by Allah and our responsibility given to us by Allah. and the priorities given to us by the environmental circumstances. And the reason, the akal, to look at the environment and to make those proper adjustments, psychological, emotional, economic, and make it all work. We can do it. O Allah, we seek thy refuge from anxiety and grief, lack of strength and laziness, cowardice and niggardliness, and being overpowered by debt and the oppression of men. O Allah, suffice us with what is lawful, keep from us what is prohibited. With thy grace, make us free from want of what is besides thee. Ameen. Iqamatis salat.